we need to renew or do anything else with that. And then I'm going to just ask my questions on how everything else is going, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. Because there were a couple of days where I felt like they weren't working, but it's either heat or like holidays or whatever. So just making sure everybody's good with that. Just an update.
Let's do
So
leaf last.
you want to do leaf last?
Yeah, do leaf last, because honestly,
Okay.
I'll just send you the contract of what we did last year, and you can kind of have a game plan as to what you want to do moving forward.
Okay, that works for me.
Can I ask a quick question about the leaf project?
Yeah.
So do you guys intend to bid that out? Do you have to bid that out annually?
We don't. It's not big enough.
So it's typically like $20,000 to $30,000. So I think what we typically do is we do like a request for proposal type thing is basically what we do. We request it from, for the last 2 years, I've contacted companies, never get a response from anybody. We have the same 2 people that bid on it, and that's that. So if somebody's got a bright idea of how we get more bids or anything like that, but it's typically $20,000, $30,000, and we just don't get any action.
Okay. The only reason I asked is because, Mayor, how you and I have been discussing based on last year's storm sewer bid about investigating an electronic bidding system.
Yes.
I was going to ask if the person responsible for the leaf bid or even the RFP was willing to be the guinea pig for that electronic bidding system. So I guess I'll just throw that out there. Whoever is responsible for that topic, if you want to have a conversation about that separately, and maybe that can be our first trial of the electronic bidding system.
Yeah, understanding who the 2 vendors are that have responded over the last 10 years, I think that electronic bidding system might make them not respond.
Yeah, I'm worried we're gonna have 0 bids because of that.
Neither of them, one of them was last year's contract was slightly better than on the back of a napkin. And the guy previous to that is even less technologically inclined.
That is what I thought, but I also thought I would throw it out there.
Good idea, but I don't think it's the right play here.
Fair enough.
Okay. All right. Moving along.
Okay, sorry, Stacy.
No, you're okay. Do you want to just, I was just kind of wondering what's going on, and do we need to start planning anything else, or just figured I'd touch base with you about everything.
Okay, well, I'll give you a quick update on the 2021 project, the AKA East Shore Court storm sewer project. So yeah, there have been some down days over the last couple weeks. The heat definitely was a problem, for them, a problem for them. But then also just that area, because it's just been inundated with water for so long, that pretty much any precipitation we get turns it into a swamp, and it takes an awfully long time for it to become workable. So part of what they were doing is trying to let that area dry out a little bit so they could actually get their equipment back there and get back to excavating. So they were on site this morning, actually, when I went out there. They were working on the connection between the existing 30-inch diameter pipe and the new 36-inch diameter pipe. So they've gotten back in there. They had hoped that they could make that connection today, but I don't think they were going to be able to do it because they were spending so much time dewatering today that I think making that connection was going to be a challenge. But it seems like they'll at least get that connection made this week. From an overall progress perspective of that project, I did send in pay application number 2 from the contractor today to Village Fiscal for processing. The contractor has installed the 24-inch diameter pipe from Park Lane Drive, I think at that point, to the concrete head wall. The concrete head wall is complete. The 24-inch diameter pipe is installed. The 15-inch diameter pipe and the 36-inch diameter pipes that run behind the East Shore Court properties, they've been installed at the head wall. They're working their way back from the 15-inch diameter pipe to the new catch basin. And then they've installed a decent amount of the 36-inch diameter pipe that needs to be installed. They have removed the existing catch basin, and that's part of the challenge, is just because for everyone's benefit, if you don't remember or were unaware, that 30-inch pipe that runs behind East Shore Court actually is the pipe that carries all of the flow that comes into the village along Jordan Road. So flow comes from the west side of Cleveland Avenue. It runs along the north side of Jordan Road. It then also the Northland Plaza. All of the Northland Plaza drains into a detention basin. All of that flow comes together and works its way back into Minerva Park. So all of that flow is coming where there's no catch basin and there's no pipe right now. So that's part of what their challenge is to keep that hole dry in their bypass pumping. So they've made pretty good progress as best they can, considering, they've been on site for a little less than a month at this point. They were hoping to get out in about a month. It seems like it might take a little bit longer than a month, but they're still well within the contract times. So that's, I guess, the general update on where they stand right now.
Sounds good. I just figured we'd touch base because they said about a month. So,
Yep.
Things happen. So awesome. Thank you.
And then I just want to confirm with the village that everyone is or we intend to issue a work directive / change order to the contractor to add some additional clearing and grubbing along the back of one of the East Shore Court properties. That's just before I issue that to the contractor. I just want to make sure that based on that email string on which Jesse was involved, it appeared the mayor, you were okay with that. So I just want to make sure of that before I send that. Okay.
It was like what, 500 or something, or 1,000?
Yeah, probably between $500 and $1,000, I would imagine.
Yeah. Have we heard if their internet's back on or not?
I have not. I sent a follow-up email message. I did not hear anything from the resident. I do know, based on when I saw this morning, that AT&T had installed a temporary line. So everything should be connected. I just haven't heard back. Okay. I guess my assumption was if it weren't back on, that we would hear. But then again, apparently the internet went out last Monday, and the first I heard of it was late Friday afternoon. Well, I had a voicemail late Friday afternoon, which I didn't get until yesterday morning. So I guess maybe it could still be out. Maybe we'll hear in a couple of days.
I saw an AT&T guy out yesterday, day before.
Yep. Yeah. I actually was out on site and I talked to him a little bit. And then when I was leaving, the contractor's superintendent was on site. He was getting there when I was getting ready to leave. So I know they further coordinated. And when I went out there this morning, there's a new AT&T line. It's currently running on the ground with caution tape tracing its route. It's going to be buried under 4+, well, I shouldn't say 4+, about 4 feet of dirt based on our finished grade. So I think the intent is for them to just leave it where it is. And then the contractor will just be responsible for backfilling on top of it.
Sounds pretty good. I didn't get any communication, but have any other neighbors reached out with anything else? Just making sure we kind of, dot our I's, cross our T's.
I personally have not, or I should say we, Jacobs, haven't received any other email messages, any other phone calls, any other correspondence. I know I was on site this morning and no residents were outside when I was on site. Randall was on site this afternoon. I know there was at least one resident out when Randall was there, but the resident didn't come up and say anything to them, or to him, I mean. So just crossing my fingers, I guess. I mean, I know it's a challenge. Sometimes we'll hear things secondhand or through the grapevine, maybe, and nothing has come up since then.
My only concern is if we're going to resod one yard or offer that the resident pays for resodding 1 yard, should we offer that for other people too? That, like, you know, they can pay for it, but that's an option.
There, what we discussed at the one residence, CE, not TS. That's the only area that actually needs some additional work. Everything else at the other properties are within the work limits. So there really isn't anything else that needs to be done at those properties.
Okay, just want to make sure. Okay.
Yep.
Great.
And just, I guess, for everybody's benefit, when I was talking to the superintendent yesterday, the contractor superintendent, he said that their interaction so far with the residents has been pretty positive. He said everybody's been pretty good. I mean, they obviously have people that are, I wouldn't say in the way, but, you know, they want to talk to the guys while they're working and stuff, which is always a challenge. But they said they've been pretty good. According to our site rep, he said some of the residents actually offered the contractors staff the opportunity to come into their garages and get out of the heat for a while, and I think someone even offered to buy them some pizza one day. So I guess so far so good, but again, I mean, you guys have done enough projects and you've represented the village long enough collectively that you know that sometimes there will be some other comments that we'll hear about after the fact, but so far we haven't. So
no, I think they're doing a really good job. Like one time he came up to me and he said, "Hey, I noticed you leave pretty early." And he even asked me what time I was planning on leaving the next day because he was planning a delivery just to make sure that they didn't block the street for me. So I thought they were very cordial and thoughtful. So
nice.
Pretty impressed. Yeah. Okay. That's all I got for this one.
Do we have any updates on the street analysis or any updates on the televising cost or anything yet?
Yes. Actually, the last I talked with Resource International, they were still anticipating having everything complete by the end of this calendar month. So actually, I'm intending to follow up with them tomorrow just to make sure that they're still on pace. They didn't express any concern with meeting that target the last time we had talked. The televising costs, actually, I got some information back from Flowline yesterday. Obviously, let's quickly start with the sanitary sewer. Those costs were in line with previous pricing that we've gotten from Flowline, just adjusted for the realities of today's costs. The challenge that everybody will face with a task, I guess, like sewer cleaning and televising, is that all of that equipment, all those trucks are diesel trucks, and those trucks basically run nonstop. And so when, you know, diesel fuel is, you know, in many cases more than $6 per gallon, those prices unfortunately just go up. They also, Flowline is, like everybody else, is facing some staffing challenges, and so they've had to, you know, try to increase wages to attract people. So their costs overall have gone up. The pricing, but for the sanitary sewer, they were higher than they have been in the past, but at least in line with what we might expect for the cost increases that everybody is experiencing currently. The storm sewer, the feedback I got from Scott Heavener today from Flowline is that it was basically a preemptive price, knowing what he's experienced previously with village storm sewers, knowing that they're generally pretty clogged, they're generally full of a lot of debris, and they generally take much more effort than they typically estimate. And so inevitably what happens is they're kind of chasing it on the downstream end, where they have to come back and ask either for more money or we have to do more heavy cleaning or something like that. So what Scott offered today, and I just haven't been able to follow up with him, is that in lieu of doing a per unit price, like a unit foot price to do the stuff like we typically estimate with them, that maybe it would be better to do a time and materials price where you're just basically, they could provide a rate table and said for every hour that this truck is on site, this is how much it will cost. For every hour that we're cleaning, this is how much it will cost. And then rather than do it on a unit price basis, we could just set a budget, say this is the maximum amount you're allowed to expend, and then you would just get charged for the time versus the quantity. So I'm going to follow up with him and see if I can get that rate table, and then talk to him about some realistic durations that he might think would it take to do some of the work. And then we can start backing it out and saying, okay, if the village can only afford this much money this calendar year, how much sewer can we realistically do? And then we could just adjust the scope accordingly. So I did get feedback from him this morning. It was late this morning. So hopefully I can get some additional information from him by the end of this week.
Perfect.
Okay.
I think that sounds reasonable. Is that your cat?
Yes, it is. It's one of them. That's sorry.
You can't lock them out. They get mad at you.
No, we're currently renting a place right now, so anything you do that encourages scratching on the carpet is not to my benefit. So
real quick, Mike, I had a question.
Okay,
and
Mark.
What about the whole crazy Jordan Road, Yasmin, that sewer line, river, all the mess?
Yeah.
Anything on that?
Yes, actually, we have a couple items on that. There's been a couple developments. So let's start with probably the easiest development is that within the last month, Village Legal Counsel and the Village Planning Director and I met with the property owner of 5454 Cleveland Avenue. Just as a reminder to everyone or to let people know, it's been legal counsel's interpretation for years now that the one of the deficient storm sewers in that area is actually owned by the property owner at 5454 Cleveland Avenue. It was never officially conveyed to the village. So the meeting that we had, I think it was in early June, we met with the property owner who was very open to conveying that storm sewer to the village, which then means it would be the village's responsibility to maintain. And then the owner would also grant an access and a maintenance easement for the village's use. So the thinking there is it's better for the it's better for the village to be able to get in and do sewer maintenance on the village's time and not continue to mess around with a private property owner trying to encourage them to make repairs to the sewer. There was an analysis performed by legal counsel, which was basically how much would it realistically cost to make the repairs to that sewer, which we had already estimated, versus how much would it cost to take that property owner to court and then work through the legal process to force them to make the repairs. And it's just, assuming the village wins the case, it's more cost effective for the village to take ownership of it. So legal counsel has prepared a draft easement, and I think legal counsel and the planning director are working with the property owner and the property owner's legal counsel to hash out any details and then determine the timing of bringing that sewer into village ownership. Downstream of that, or with that, if everyone remembers, when we did our first hydraulic modeling of what it would take to improve that Jordan Road sewer, and we prepared an opinion of probable construction cost. We estimated that project to cost approximately $1 million. So we've been spending a decent amount of time doing additional modeling to see if we can reduce those pipe sizes and coordinate with the city of Columbus. What we determined is the pipe sizes that we calculated, if we just went with that alternative, were correctly sized. So we shifted our attention to developing additional alternatives that could be more cost effective. We think we found, we've identified an alternative that we think is it's viable. We feel it's a viable alternative and it should be more cost effective. Randall is working on the analysis memo right now for the village. We're scheduled to have that. I'm scheduled to have that in hand next Tuesday for QC review, with the idea of being able to review it and revise it and have it submitted to the village by, I think that Friday is July 1st. We're trying to get that to the village by July 1st. Our preliminary opinion of probable construction cost of this alternative concept would reduce the cost of the project by, right now, we think between 33% and 50%. So it's a pretty significant cost savings. It would, once we talk to the village and you guys hopefully decide to go this route, it's an alternative that I would strongly recommend we have a meeting of some kind with the Jordan Road property owners, because the alternative that we are considering is basically a supersized French drain, for lack of a better description. So we would have a smaller diameter pipe, in this instance an 18-inch diameter pipe versus the 36-inch diameter pipe that we previously discussed. And then for the flow that couldn't be contained within the 18-inch diameter pipe, on top of that pipe we would have a grass-lined channel that would carry the higher flows when you get those larger storms. So it would be similar to a drainage ditch that you see along a rural road, or a road that doesn't have a curb and gutter concept. So it would kind of be an overflow. And then, as the water, as the storm ends and the water, doesn't flow as strongly, then the water would seep into the, seep through the ditch and seep through the aggregate in the trench, and then work its way down into the pipe and be carried away. The challenge there is, obviously we're considering then having to put a drainage ditch through backyards. There's some tight space when you get to the church parking lot to snake in something between the church parking lot and their property line. Obviously, if you know the Jordan Road area, there's a lot of trees. There's a number of structures, wooden sheds and similar, that would probably have to be removed or relocated, which would have to happen anyway, whether it was a trench or whether it was a drainage ditch or a full pipe. I mean, all that stuff's going to have to be moved anyway. But this would be a channel that is, it's not a concrete channel or something that you might see on like Los Angeles or something like that. It's a grass lined channel that would have low growth, but then homeowners the village would have to work out the maintenance responsibility with the homeowners. It's something that would have to be mowed and maintained, and we would size it and slope it so that mowers could get into the ditch and things like that. So that's the direction that that's the alternative that we're going to propose, in addition to the 36-inch diameter pipe, from a cost savings perspective, I guess is probably the best way to phrase that.
Mark, does that answer your question?
It sure does. Thank you very much.
Okay.
You're welcome.
That's all I got. I think, how much time do we have? 4 minutes. But that was a really nice update, so thank you for all of that. Does anybody else have anything else?
Circling back around to leaf pickup, because we kind of mentioned that and said, let's throw that to the end. Just my personal 2 cents, I thought the company we had last year, whichever one was that, did a fine job. I know some people get twitchy, but some people get twitchy. To be perfectly honest, I'm okay with putting the leaves out. They might be there for 3 days. I go, okay, 3 days within, I don't think ever I've had them out there within and not been taken up within 3 days. And if it takes 3 days, it takes 3 days. I'm not looking for them to be watching from when I rake and jump out and grab the leaves.
Yeah, I think the risk was that the people we used last year had a set day, and it was unclear what happened if it was impossible to collect. I think Wednesday was their day, but if it was raining, it would throw things off. And then, so I think we just need to gain better clarity on intention and expectations around that going forward.
Makes sense.
You're absolutely right. I think it could be worded better. And that came about because some residents had asked for
a date.
And that, I mean, I will tell you, it's just like Mark said, some people wanted a date and some people hated the fact. There were times that the person that we had before might come out twice in a week, but there were also times that he didn't come out for 2 weeks. So so I think you have to be clear at what your expectations are. What do we want? And then put that in the bid. Because I think both of them would do that. I don't think that one versus the other wouldn't just do once a week, or like Brian said, making sure that there's a alternate date, or if they don't get it done in a day, you always have to be cautious if a truck breaks down or anything like that. Again, what are the expectations that we're expecting, and what are the expectations that the residents are expecting? And then who wants to be the person to man that every time they're delayed each week, posting it, making sure residents know, and all of that. So there's a little more that goes into it, but trash comes every Monday. That we get used to it. So I don't think it's crazy to think that we could have leaves picked up on Wednesday or whatever day.
Yeah. Do we need to iron that out sooner than later? Like, what's the deadline?
Yesterday.
I'm new to this. Yesterday?
Yeah, yesterday. Okay. So in order to get, they typically do start picking up I say that. They start picking up in October. Okay. So to do 3 readings and 30 days, because again, if we can avoid emergencies or anything is great.
Yeah.
That said, if you put it out and do a request for 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, you set a date for them to come in. I will tell you, we had a problem with one person not wanting to give an estimate too far in advance, and you can't blame them because of not knowing what gas prices are going to be and not knowing what this was last year. But it is what it is. I mean, we have to be able to set a budget, and we have to be able to do our thing. So that's kind of where we are with that. So, if they bid, if they do bid, if they don't bid, whatever they decide to do, this is what we need to do. And we just need to get it out there and decide how we want to handle it.
I would also add, if they want to just do a day, the closer to the weekend you can get it, if you get it Tuesday or whatever, because, that's when people rake their leaves.
Correct.
On the weekend.
I agree. I totally agree. I think if we did it on, not to pull everything Monday, but if we could get them to do a Monday or Tuesday, that would be most ideal.
We don't want them in the way of the garbage trucks, which is, I think, how it ended on Wednesday, because if there's a Monday holiday observed, which I don't know, I'd have to look at a calendar, then it could fall on Tuesday. And so that's how it wound up on Wednesday.
I don't think there is any in that stretch.
The thing about the trash being here, this is street, so I will mention this. Again, I try not to comment on Facebook, you guys know that, but I saw the comments. I did reach out to Local Waste and told them 6:30 is absolutely not to happen again. I usually have to do this about 3 or 4 times a year. They continually back it up until they get to the point that we yell at them. I don't know the reason for it, but the moral of the story is they have been told they cannot come at 6:30 in the morning, and that's where we are. So I saw it, I called them, and hopefully that won't happen again.
Does our contract have a time?
Oh yeah, it's 7:30 in the morning. It absolutely is. But we don't, the only thing that we can do is say, don't do it again. And everybody pays their own bills. Everybody does all of that. they were significantly cheaper than the other people that bid on it. So, I mean, again, we don't have to use them again. I mean, that is a fact. So, you know, there is a good, you have to be able to work with these companies, and they're always receptive when I reach out to them. So I would
they do a really good job of getting stuff, and
yeah,
sometimes they huck the recycle bins a little too hucky, but I mean, they're doing a job that's not pleasant and they want to get done with because they have another place to do that job in 10 minutes, or whatever. And it's a go-go job. I'm okay with that.
Right. Yeah. And it wasn't too hot on Monday, but in fairness, in the summer months, I mean, sometimes they do like to start early. I'm not giving excuses for them. They're not supposed to start until 7:30. But I mean, you know, when it's 90-some degrees some days, you kind of, again, you feel for the fact that they're out there doing what they're doing, and most of us would not do it. So
yeah,
I get it.
That's
I think people are jumping into finance, so I'm going to go jump in and listen to that.
We hate to leave you, Mike, but we're out. We got to get to another one.
Thank you for the updates.
You're welcome, and I won't take it personally. Money's usually more important. If without the money, we can't do what we're talking about.
Exactly.
So
we better let Jeff tell us how much money we have. All right, bye.
You guys have a great evening.
Bye.